Hello everyone, myself Dr. Pratishta Rao, DNB Obstetrics and Gynecology. So today's lecture topic is screening and treatment of pre-invasive lesions of cervix. So now I can say this is not only a difficult topic for any postgraduate in obstetrics and gynecology, but also a confusing one. What I mean is, when I first read this topic, it was like, yeah, this is difficult. But I couldn't even understand the flow charts of different lesions. Then I read twice, thrice, every time. Every time I used to feel the same. But later I came to know what made it difficult. That is my way of approach to the topic. I came to know I approached the topic in a wrong manner, so I set it straight. Today I'm going to show the way to learn this topic. So in this topic, we should know the FOXI guidelines. So that is what today I'm going to discuss, and I'm going to help you all how to learn this topic. So first is first, why screening is important? Because the cervical cancer incidence in India is very high. You can see on the slide the number of cases per year, and also the mortality is also very high. That is 67,477 per year. This is not a small number. So the carcinoma cervix is the second most common gynecological malignancy amongst the Indian. The incidence is 3.5%. Why to follow the guidelines? Yes. So why to follow these guidelines? We have so many other guidelines like ACCT, American guidelines, ACOG guidelines, United States Task Force guidelines. So why should we follow the FOXI, Indian guidelines? These are good clinical practice recommendations, and these are unique. Yes, how they are unique? Because they did so many researches with the available resources and the research evidence in the Indian context. Using all these things, they gave the algorithms, the management flow charts. So those are the most confusing for us. But it has a lot of meaning in it. So let us learn how. So we should know the resource stratification. Yes. So this resource stratification is FOXI Good Clinical Practice Recommendations January 2018 guidelines. Yes. So how to stratify the resources? Two things. One is a good resource setting, as you can see in this slide, and the second is the limited resource settings. Right. So in the limited resource settings, like visual inspection with acetic acid is the minimum thing that should be available for the screening. And for good resource settings, almost everything is available. Starting from the visual inspection with acetic acid, cytology, co-testing, that is co-testing is nothing but HPV DNA plus cytology and primary HPV DNA. All these screening tools are available in the good resource setting. Right. Coming to the management options. Yes. We all know the management options, LEEP, conization, cryotherapy and thermocoagulation. These are also available in a limited resource settings also. So the management options depending upon the institute, depending upon the hospital, the place where which options are available, we can choose accordingly. Next, single visit approach strategy. Definitely, if the patient won't come for the follow up, the patient is not compliant. we'll definitely go for the single visit approach strategy. That is same for either it is a good resource setting or a limited resource setting. We'll see the patient and treat. Yes. Next, continuation of the recommendations, screening recommendations of the FOXY. Here you can see in good resource setting how we are going to approach the patient, and in limited resource setting how we are going to approach the patient. Right. So what is the target age group? Definitely in a good resource setting will start at 25 years of age itself up to 65 years. So we are going to stop at 65 years, either it is a good resource setting or a limited resource setting. But in a limited resource setting, you should start the screening at least of 30 years of age. So the next is when to start. As I already said, you should start at 25 years in a good resource setting, and you should at least start at 30 years in a limited resource setting. Right. And the frequency of testing. Yes, the frequency depends which way you are testing the patients. Like if you are doing only cytology, you should test and ask the patient to come 3 yearly, once in 3 years. If you are going for a co-testing or a primary HPV testing, you should ask the patient to come every 5 years. So 5 yearly. Yes. Screening recommendations, continuation. When to stop? When to stop, as I said, at 65 years, both in a good resource setting and a limited resource setting. But, but there should be consistent negative results in the last 15 years. What does it mean? It means, for example, one of my patient is 65 years. I was testing the patient with co-testing, that is both the tests, HPV test and cytology. So last three co-testing reports should be negative because co-testing is done 5 yearly. So consistent negative results in the last 15 years means last three reports. For example, in another patient, if she is not affordable, she wants only cytology and she is at the age of 65 years and I'm testing her with only cytology. So she should have continuous 5 reports negative at the age of 65 because only cytology should be done 3 yearly. So I think I am clear, right? Then, if any of one of my patient has a CIN2 report, CIN2 report at the age of 63, at the age of 63, CIN2 or above. What I mean is high grade lesions. So CIN2, CIN3 or HSIL or AIS, all these things. So at the age of 63, I am giving you an example. Right. So what I should do? Actually, in other patients, I am going to stop the screening at the age of 65 years with consistent negative results in the last 15 years. But in this patient at the age of 63 years, she was CIN2. So from the diagnosis, from the time of diagnosis, irrespective of the method of treatment, whatever the treatment I gave to the patient, irrespective of that, from the age of diagnosis, I mean at the 63 years, I'll follow up the patient for 20 years. It means till the age of 83 years if the patient is alive, of course. So please remember this 20 years, right? So in another patient, if one of my patient got hysterectomized, so if one of my patient got hysterectomized due to any reason, like she may be CIN2 positive or she may have some benign causes like any fibroid or the such things, so how will you follow up the patient, right? So if there is a benign lesion, like for example the patient underwent hysterectomy because the indication was abnormal uterine bleeding due to fibroids, then there is no need to screen the patient. Remember this, there is no need to screen the patient, right? If The indication for hysterectomy is not clear. If the patient don't know the indication, she is not having any indication on the discharge sheet, or the discharge sheet is not available, definitely follow up the patient as usual, like a regular patient. Even though there is no cervix, yes, you should follow up the patient in such conditions. Right. Next. mm, Yes, one patient after hysterectomy with the histopathological report came to us with a CIN report. I mean, she is having CIN with the histopathological report. Right. In such patient, there is a need to screen with HPV at 6 months and 18 months. Please do remember all these things. Yes. Next, if one of our patient is immunocompromised, like for example, she is HIV positive. So how are you going to follow up the patient? How are you going to screen the patient? Yes. So as I said, we start in a good resource setting at the age of 25 years and in a limited resource setting at the age of 30 years. For example, one HIV positive patient, one of our patient, if she came to us at the age of 28 years, we have a limited resource setting. Even though Even though at the age of 28 years, you should start the screening, because she was detected HIV positive at the age of 25 years. In the first year of diagnosis, irrespective of the age, you should start screening, because she is immunocompromised. She has high chances of HPV infection, and that could progress to high grade lesions, and that could progress to the invasive cancer. She is having high chances, right? So how are you going to follow the patient? Follow up the patient. Yes. In good resource setting, every 3 years up to 65 years. This is the level A recommendation. What is level A recommendation? Nothing but level A is much better than level B. Remember in that way. This is level A evidence. Depending upon the evidence, we give the recommendations levels. So level A is much better than level B. Right. So in good resource setting, every 3 years up to 65 years is a level A recommendation. In limited resource setting, VIA should be done every 3 years, at least up to 50 years. Yes. So in this complete lecture, I request you to please analyze this slide. This one slide is very important for you to learn the management algorithms. I said I'll show you the way to learn. Yes, this is the way to learn. I'll say you, yes, these are the percentages. There are decibels, there are so many numbers over here. Yes, it is very difficult to remember. I am not asking you to remember this. I am just asking you to analyze it. I'll even show how to analyze it. Yes. But in this chart, please see in the last line. In the last line, there is the risk of squamous cell cancer. The progression of the squamous cell cancer to CIN2 and CIN3 is 84%. So remember this. This is very high. And all the remaining things I will explain in a bit. Right. So from the same slide, from the previous slide, I took this thing. Yes. So this is about the ascus lesion. Yes. And these percentages are progression to CIN2 and CIN3. Right. If any patient with only cytology report came to us, then we can say she is having 6.9 percentage of chances to progress into CIN2 and 2.6 percentage of chances to progress into CIN3. Yes, I remind you that we are not talking about CIN1. We are not talking about CIN1. Yes, definitely, because CIN1 is a persistent and stable infection. CIN1 has minimal risk of cancer. So please do remember, this is the reason we grade CIN1 as a low grade lesion, and CIN2 and CIN3 percentages are being given here because they are high grade lesions. Right. Then with only cytology, these are the percentages. Yes, I made some arrow marks from those percentages to if the patient is having the co-testing with HPV positive report or a HPV negative report. So what is the difference? Yes, if the patient is having HPV positive report along with the cytology, see the transition. It is from 6.9 percentage to 18 percentage. So the chance of progression to CIN2 is being increased 3 times. 3 times, I insist, 3 times is a big number. Yes, and if with cytology report the patient is having a positive HPV report, the percentage is being increased from 2.6 to 6.8 percentage. Again here it is 3 times. Right. If the same patient, for example, imagine she is having positive cytology report of ASCUS but a negative HPV report, the risk drastically dropped to 1.1 percentage from 6.9 percentage. So it is also a big difference, right? And here for CIN3, the risk is being decreased from 2.6 to 0.43 percentage. It is almost decreased by 5 times. Please do remember this. Please do remember this. How it will be useful, I'll make you understand in the next slide. Yes. So for making you understand about the ASCUS patient, I'm giving you a clinical scenario. Yes. Yes, this lecture is going to be very extensive. So please be patient. At the end of this lecture, definitely you are going to learn how you should go and manage the patients with all these pre-invasive lesions of cervix. So please be patient. Right. So Mrs. A, 30 years old, para 4 plus 2. She had a normal vaginal delivery 1 year back. Now she came to the gynecology OPD with complaint of vaginal discharge. On examination, the cervical erosion was there and there was a moderate amount of mucoid vaginal discharge. She also brought pap smear report of ASCUS. So this is the case scenario. Let us analyze this. Yes. So this is the Foxy recommended ASCUS management algorithm for the patient of 30 to 64 years. Yes, I'll let you know everything why it is 30 to 64, why there is different algorithm for less than 30 years, and why HPV test we are discussing in ASCUS and LSIL. Why don't we discuss the HPV test in high grade lesions like ASCH, HSIL, everything. For everything you're going to get the answer in this lecture. Right. So see here, yes. So ASCUS in a woman aged 30 to 64 years. Our patient was 30 years. Yes. She came to us with the ASCUS report. So you should go for a HPV test. You should go for a HPV test if the resources are available, because it is level A recommendation. Yes, as I previously said to you, in the previous slide I said to you, the HPV positivity increased the risk of progression of CIN2 and CIN3 about three times increased risk. Right. So that is the reason why HPV test is level A recommendation. If in case the HPV test is not available, go for cytology at 1 year and see the cytology report. If it is negative, return to the routine screening. But again, if it is ascus or LSIL, go for colposcopy and biopsy. Same if it is high grade lesion, definitely you are going to go for colposcopy and biopsy. Right. So coming to the HPV test again. You already saw the percentages. If the HPV test is negative, there is less chance, that is only 1.1 percentage for progression to CIN2 and 0.43 percentage of progression to CIN3. So that is a minimal risk. So if the HPV is negative, you are going to go for the return to the routine screening. Right, I think there is no confusion in it. Yes. If the HPV test is positive, if the HPV test is positive, as you already saw, there is 18 percentage chance of ascus to progress into CIN2 and 6 point something chance of progression to CIN3. So definitely you can't neglect the patient. You should explain the patient, this is the percentage of risk you are having for the progression, and convince her for colposcopy and biopsy and manage accordingly. Yes, the same thing that like we saw in the last slide of ascus, this is the slide of LSIL. So please see all these things. Even here you can see you can analyze like I said in the previous slide. Please do analyze like I said in the previous ascus slide. See the progression of only cytology to CIN2 and CIN3, and whether when it is HPV positive, what is the percentage, when HPV negative, what is the percentage. Please do analyze. So after analyzing, you can see there is definitely increased risk, but not that many times as in ascus. Not that many times as in ascus, but definitely there is a difference. So this is the reason why we do HPV test even in the case of LSIL. Yes. So to make you understand, I am giving another case scenario for a LSIL patient. Mrs. K, 45 years, came to gynecological OPD with a recent pap smear report of LSIL. And a previous pap smear report exactly 1 year back was also LSIL. And she has a HPV positive report. So how are you going to manage this patient? Yes. So after explaining all this, I think you understood HPV test is very important even in the patient with LSIL. Yes. Please see the algorithm. So preferred level A recommendation is HPV test. If it is not available, definitely you can go for colposcopy biopsy. Yes. So if HPV test is positive, then even then you are going for colposcopy and biopsy. Why? You saw the percentages. The percentages are very high of progression to CIN2 and CIN3 and further progression of invasive carcinoma. We never know. We never know the patient can land up in invasive carcinoma. So we are not taking any chance. Right. If the HPV test is negative, so the percentage of chance is being decreased. So you can go for co-testing at 1 year. If the cytology is normal and HPV is negative at 1 year, go for co-testing at 3 years. Again, if the cytology is normal and HPV is negative at 3 years, return to 5-yearly routine screening protocol. Yes, this is the flow. If in case, if in case at 1 year and at 3 years, at any of these points, if the cytology is more than or equal to ascus or the HPV is positive, please don't take any chance. Please don't take any chance and go for colposcopy and biopsy. And depending upon the report of the colposcopy and biopsy, manage the patient according to the FOXY guidelines. Right. In all these cases, if the patient is not compliant, definitely in the first sitting itself, see the patient with the help of a colposcopy and treat the patient with the ablative therapy. Yes. So this is another case scenario. let us see what is it. Yes, if Mrs. A, 26 years, what will be the change in the management? Yes, in the previous case, we saw the patient was 45 years with LSIL. So if the patient is 26 years with either ascus or LSIL, any of the lesion, these are low grade lesions, right? Yes. So 26 years, it means less than 30 years. So how are you going to manage the patient? Yes. So please do remember why we divided the management protocols less than 30 and greater than 30. Because in less than 30 group, specifically 25 to 29 years age group, the incidence of HPV infection is very high. It is 40.4 percentage. So there is no need to do any HPV testing in such patient. So how are you going to manage the patient? You should follow up the patient with cytology alone at 1 year, and it should be done twice. So you should follow up the patient twice yearly for 2 years. Right. So this is what I was discussing. Please go through this flowchart. Whatever I previously explained, everything is given in this flowchart. So please go through this flowchart. Yes. Now we should discuss about the high grade lesions, ASCH and HSIL. Right. So one point I'm going to highlight is, till now we did the HPV test in all our patients with low grade lesions. Yes. Here in high grade lesions there is no role of HPV triaging. Why? Because the HPV positivity is very high in high grade lesions. You can see the percentages on the slide. If it is such high number, it does not affect the management of the patient. So there is no point to do any HPV test. Right. So if we are not going to do HPV test in high grade lesion patients, then how are you going to manage such patients? Yes. In high grade lesions, directly go for the colposcopy with biopsy and endocervical assessment also. Yes. And what are you going to concentrate? In the colposcopy, see for the adequacy. Your management algorithm depends upon the adequacy of the colposcopy. So what is adequacy? Here the question comes. Yes, adequacy is, there are two criteria. Criteria 1, it is if the entire lesion is visible in colposcopy. 2.2 is the entire squamocolumnar junction should be visible in the colposcopy. If it satisfies these 2 points, then we can call it as a adequate colposcopy. So please do concentrate if there is an adequate colposcopy or if it is an inadequate colposcopy. This is very important for the management. Yes, if it is adequate, and on biopsy, on histology, whether it is CIN1 or CIN23, this is important. If it is CIN23, as I previously said, we will definitely directly go to the excision or ablation of the transformation zone. For ablation, you should know the eligibility criteria. I am going to discuss. I am going to say what are ablative procedures, what are excisional procedures. I will try to explain them. Yes. Then if it is CIN1 or less than CIN1, I mean the low grade lesions. As I previously said, CIN1 is a transient or stable infection. So, there is no immediate intervention needed for CIN1 lesion. If it only persists for more than 2 years, then you are going to advise treatment for the patient. CIN1 has very minimal risk of cancer. So please remember these things. I am repeating them very often, twice, thrice. So please remember this. Yes, if it is CIN1, You can either go for co-testing at 1 year or diagnostic excisional procedure and manage accordingly. Yes. So the patient, previously we saw high-grade lesions more than 30 years. Here the patient is desirous of pregnancy. So the patient is desirous of pregnancy. What will you do then? Please remember, if the patient is desirous of pregnancy, it means try to avoid the excisional procedures to the extent to which you could. To the extent to which you could. Please remember this one point. This one point changes the management. Right. So, the patient with high grade lesion and desirous of pregnancy. Definitely, you will go directly for colposcopy and biopsy because HPV test has no role here. Yes. See whether it is a low grade lesion or high grade lesion on histology. So, what are high grade lesion? CIN 2 and 3. Yes, if it is to CIN 2 or 3, manage according to the Foxy CIN management, which I am going to explain in the next slides. That's it. If it is less than that, if it is low grade lesion, follow up the patient 6 monthly for 2 years. As I said, if it is CIN 1, I am repeating again and again and again. If it is CIN 1, you are going to follow up the patient for 2 years, 6 monthly. If it is more than 2 years or any of the report is showing the high grade lesion, then only you will advise some treatment to the patient. Please go through this algorithm, everything I explain in detail. Yes, here it is atypical glandular cells favoring neoplasia or adenocarcinoma in situ. Yes, how this algorithm is different. Yes, this is adenocarcinoma and atypical glandular cells. So you should incorporate the endometrial sampling also in this first investigation. So colposcopy, endocervical sampling and endometrial sampling. If it is endometrial pathology, yes, directly go for hysterectomy. Or else you can go for diagnostic excisional procedure and you can arrive at a diagnosis. For histopathological examination, specimen will be provided and depending upon that you can take the step of hysterectomy or not. Yes. Or else if the samples are negative, the endocervical, the endometrial are negative, then there the question arises from where this carcinoma has come. So evaluate for the ovarian, fallopian tube by imaging. If any pathology is detected, treat accordingly. If no pathology is detected, then manage according to the Foxy guidelines. Right. So I said in the previous slides the same points about CIN1. CIN1 is a transient or stable HPV infection with minimum cancer risk. So the treatment is not recommended in first instance. And in women with CIN1 persisting for 2 years, then the appropriate treatment should be advised. So this is the algorithm of CIN1. I already explained everything in all the previous slides. So please go through the slide yourself. I definitely think you can understand this slide so easily because I explained everything previously. Yes. So now coming about the eligibility for ablative procedures. So for treatment purpose, we can go for ablative procedures or excisional procedures. What are they? I'm going to explain in the next slide. So what is the eligibility criteria? There are 5 points. Point number 1. The lesion should be entirely visible and it should not occupy more than 2 quadrants of the cervix. Point number 2. The entire lesion should be located on ectocervix. It should not involve vaginal or endocervix. Right. Point number 3 is the lesion should be adequately covered by the largest cryotherapy probe that we have. Point number 4. There should be no suspicion of cancer. And point number 5, cryotherapy is contraindicated in cases like postcoital bleeding or postmenopausal bleeding, if any obvious cervical growth or any irregular surface, or if it bleeds on touch. What are ablative procedures? You know, ablative procedures, they destroy the tissue in situ. They do not provide any tissue for histological assessment. And there is a need for us to follow up the patient because we don't know the status of the patient. There are two types of ablative procedures, cryotherapy and cold coagulation. So what is a diagnostic excisional procedure? Yes, as I said previously, in ablative procedures, we don't get any specimen. We just destroy the tissue in situ. But in diagnostic excisional procedure, we get a specimen from the transformation zone and endocervical canal for histopathological evaluation. So what are the types of diagnostic excisional procedures? One is laser conization. Second is cold knife conization. Previously, cold knife conization they used to do very often, but now because of heavy bleeding, we don't go for cold knife conization. Cold knife conization is nothing but directly taking the scalpel and the blade, 11 number blade, and we do the conization, sparing the internal os. In such a technique, there are chances of heavy bleeding. So nowadays we are not preferring that. So instead of that, we are going for loop electrosurgical excisional procedure and large loop excision of transformation zone. So the advantages of these procedures over the whole life conization are hemostasis is secured very easily and perfectly. So I'm not going into much detail about the diagnostic excisional procedures and the ablative procedures. I just clarified at least about the procedure and the types of the procedures to have some idea. And if you want to know in detail, please do refer to the respective textbooks. Yes. So now coming to the management of the women aged less than 30 years and CIN1 on histology, and she is also desirous of pregnancy. Right. So we know when we are talking about CIN1, CIN2, CIN3, these are histological diagnosis. Right. So we should see for the preceding cytology, because when a patient comes to us with the cytology, regularly we don't do the biopsy, right? We don't go for the histology at first. We first go for the cytology or the co-testing and colposcopy, etc. If it is suspicious, then we'll go for biopsy. So definitely when a patient comes to us with CIN1 and CIN2 or 3, in most often cases we have a preceding cytology report with the patient. So do ask for the preceding cytology report. If and see whether the patient's report is having a low grade lesion, that is ascus or LSIL, and a high grade lesion, that is ASCH or HSIL. So you know how to manage accordingly, because in the previous slides I explained in detail how to manage ascus or LSIS and high grade lesions. So do in that way. And do refer this slide for the flow chart. You can easily understand. There are no issues that you can't understand. Definitely you can easily understand. Please go through this slide. Yes, this one, the adequacy of the colposcopy, I already explained to you in detail. So if you have any doubt further, so go through this slide. Yes. Now coming to the management of the woman with CIN2 or 3 on histology. Right. So same, uh, like I said in CIN1, review the colposcopy report. Previously, we asked for the cytology report because CIN1 is has the minimal chances of cancer. I already explained about it. It is a transient or stable infection that have minimal risk of cancer. So in such patient, you don't directly jump into the treatment. First, you analyze the patient, you see for the previous reports, and in this CIN 2 or 3 report, patient with CIN 2 or 3, review the colposcopy. I previously said the same thing in case of high grade lesions. So CIN 2 or 3 is same like in CIN 2 or 3 is a histology report. The same, it is same like in cytology, like high grade lesions like HSIL or ASCH. Both are same, but this is a histology report, that is a cytology. So we will review the colposcopy for the adequacy. Like in the previous slide of high grade lesions, I said we review the colposcopy report for the adequacy. Now you know what is the adequate report, adequate colposcopy report. So you know. So see whether it is adequate or inadequate. If it is inadequate, you have no option. You should excise the portion, diagnostic excisional procedure, and send that for histopathological evaluation. Yes. Then in histopathological evaluation, see for the margins specifically. If the margin is positive, if it is positive, what does it mean? It means that you did not remove the entire lesion. There are chances that you could have left the lesion in situ. The patient is having a part of lesion because the margins are positive, the tissue's margins are positive. So, repeat the cytology at 6 months and also endocervical curettage along with the cytology. And depending upon that report, manage according to the FOXY guidelines. Simple. Or else, if possible, you can go for the repeat cone biopsy if the margins are positive. If possible to repeat the cone biopsy, you can go for that. If cone biopsy is not feasible or the patient is non-compliant, you can go for the hysterectomy also. Right. If in diagnostic excisional procedure, the margins are negative. So what does it mean? It means the abnormal lesion is being completely removed from the patient. There is no part of the lesion in the patient. So you can repeat the HPV and cytology at 1 and 2 years. If both are negative, both the test at 1 year and second year are negative, then you can return to the routine screening. Yes. So management of the patient desirous of pregnancy, the same thing comes again and again, but here because the patient is desirous of pregnancy, uh, sorry for the mistake, it is not CIN 1, it is CIN 2 or 3, desirous of pregnancy, right. So in such patient, same thing, we'll try to prolong the we'll try to preserve the uterus. Yes, we'll try to preserve the uterus, but it is a difficult task because CIN 2 or 3 is a high grade lesion and the patient is desirous of pregnancy, but we will try, right. So what are you going to do? See what facilities are available with us. One, cytology and colposcopy, yes, definitely in most of the institutes it is available. So ask the patient to come at 6 months and go for cytology and colposcopy. You can opt for that. Then if the lesion persists, then repeat the cytology and colposcopy again after 6 months. It means at 1 year. Yes. If the cytology is negative or normal colposcopy, then repeat co-testing after 1 year and then at 3 years and routine screening. Right. If at any of these steps high grade lesion is seen in cytology or colposcopy is worsens, then go for diagnostic excisional procedure. We have no chance but do a diagnostic excisional procedure. So why are we trying to avoid a diagnostic excisional procedure? Because if we go for LEEP or LEDs, all these things, what happens is there are chances of landing up of the patient in second trimester abortions as the patient is desirous of becoming pregnant. So we are trying to avoid the excisional procedures. That is our main aim. If it is like we should go for it, there is no option, then yes, we should go for it and explain the patient that there we did a diagnostic excisional procedure and there are chances of landing her up in second trimester abortions if she becomes pregnant. Yes, this is one thing. And next, whether the lesion is CIN2 or CIN3. Here you can see the blue box where CIN2 lesion. In cases if facilities are available to perform the ancillary tests like P16 and Ki67, these are specific tests. If we have the facility to do these tests, if it is positive, then we have no chance. We should go for diagnostic excisional procedures. If it is negative, we can do like previously I said, right? Colposcopy and cytology at 6 months, then at 1 year, then again at 1 year, 3 years and 5 years, so on, right? If it is a CIN3 with inadequate colposcopy, directly go for the excisional procedures because you know CIN3 has a high chance of progression into a invasive carcinoma. So please go through the algorithm again and again. I think and I definitely think you can understand it. Right. Finally, management of the woman with CIN in pregnancy. For example, one of my patients, she comes to me and says she is pregnant and she wants to go for further investigations. But she also got a previous report of excisional procedure. She said that she underwent an excisional procedure because she is having an invasive lesion. But she has no idea what is to be done further. Right. So she asks us, Doctor, I'm pregnant and also I underwent the excisional report or I have the colposcopy report, all these things. She comes to us and says, right. So review the colposcopy report of the patient which she brought to us and if see whether any invasive cancer, any features of invasive cancer are present in the colposcopy. Yes. So if the patient says the colposcopy features of invasive cancer or inadequate colposcopy with CIN3, so then definitely we should offer the patient a definitive treatment as per the period of gestation. So counsel the patient, prepare her mentally for the definitive treatment. Right. If it is suggestive of invasive cancer and the colposcopy is also adequate, so here we have an advantage. We have an advantage that the adequacy of the colposcopy. So we are sure about it. The entire lesion is visible, the entire squamocolumnar junction is visible. So it is an advantage. So you can defer the treatment till after pregnancy. Thank you so much. I hope that this session will be really helpful for you and thank you so much.